the mustache
that
I
can't share.
Well,
on national
but that's
television.
the point, right? He's giving people feelings about it. That's the point.
Go ahead, Molly.
You go ahead. What's your reaction to his interview? You just heard him. Colbert did call him 52 kids. A little disrespectful.
My response is Antonio Brown is not being completely honest. That's my response.
Okay.
It's not that Colbert called them 52 kids. You got executives that refer to players as kids because they're older men all the time, okay? Now, maybe that's not the ideal thing to say in this day and age, but what I'm trying to say is it's not about them being children. It's about you being in your 50s or older talking about dudes in their 20s. Or in this case, it's Antonio Brown, 30. That's not Antonio Brown's issue. Antonio Brown's issue is not the word kids. Antonio Brown's issue is 52, meaning the 52 other guys than Ben Roethlisberger. That's his problem. He's got a problem with the fact that Big Ben Roethlisberger is here and everybody else in their eyes is here because Big Ben Roethlisberger, according to what I have been told, has gotten away with some things. Other guys, guys being held accountable for curfews and things of that nature, not applicable to him. You can't go out and party and all of this other stuff, not applicable to him. Can't talk to folks in a certain way, not applicable to him. A matter of fact, that's one of the issues that some of the players have with Mike Tomlin. Now, we know how much I love Mike T, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people talk about him being fired because he's one of the successful coaches of this generation. It makes me sick to my stomach that people try to talk about him that way. But this year was not the greatest year for Mike Tomlin, and primarily it was because of turmoil going on inside that locker room. People had problems with each other. They definitely had problems with Big Ben Roethlisberger, and a lot of the players didn't appreciate how Mike Tomlin handled things with them as opposed to how he handled things with Ben. We understand that as a quarterback, the rules are different, Max. We get it. It's the most important position. You're the face of the franchise, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at a lot of quarterbacks and what is believed to be proper protocol, proper etiquette in terms of how you conduct yourself as the leader of a franchise and as the quarterback, there are plenty of dudes that had an issue with Big Ben Roethlisberger. Antonio Brown was arguably first amongst them. And when Colbert speaks about the 52 kids, but not Ben, what you're saying is you think Ben's a grown man compared to us, and they don't feel that way. That is what Antonio Brown was. That's what he didn't say, but he meant to say because he should have said it, because he certainly said it privately to numerous people. He should have said that.
The favoritism and the unfairness. Max, let me ask you this. This team didn't make the playoffs. They don't have Le'Veon Bell. They don't have AB, but there is so much talent there. They have an exceptional coach. How do you fix this team and get it on the right track?
Can I quickly answer that and then get to that real quick?
Yeah.
Let me just say, you have to respect AB's resume. There's no way getting around that. But you can still be critical of his behavior.
Absolutely.
Same thing for Colbert, the GM. You have to respect the man's resume. He's put together 2 Super Bowl teams. I respect Colbert's resume. You can respect him at his professional accomplishments. That does not mean
I like Kevin Colbert.
That doesn't mean he's above criticism. Right. You know why? Because we're talking about people, and as people, they're flawed. The good and the bad, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about Colbert for a second. Look, what did he tell Le'Veon Bell? What was I saying since the beginning? If you want Le'Veon Bell, I'm shifting to Bell for a second, to come back, and he's at the negotiating table, and it's like it's the stretch run of the season, and the playoffs are on the line, and he's like, bet, I'll come back. Just promise you won't franchise tag me. Now, realize, once they say, no, we're not going to promise that, it doesn't make any sense. You want him back so bad because he's so good that you also want to franchise him? But you won't agree not to franchise him, so you don't get him at all? What kind of sense does that make? Only if you're trying to send a message to the players. Colbert was looking out for the franchise, but not the team. The team is just an iteration, the latest iteration of the franchise. These are the guys that happen to be in that franchise at the moment. That's your team. Colbert wasn't looking out for that team, so guys on the team must have some kind of feeling about it. I get that. How do you fix the team, Stephen A? How do you fix the Steelers, rather? Well, there are 4 actors here. You have to ask, who's the issue? Is it the GM, Colbert? Because someone's got to go. Is it the coach, Tomlin? Is it the quarterback, Roethlisberger? Or is it the wideout, Antonio Brown? All 3 of those other dudes won Super Bowl. AB didn't. AB's the one chirping. However, I ain't touching Mike Tomlin. Sorry. Everyone's out of their minds with Mike Tomlin. We're going to leave that alone. Okay. However, many people have suggested maybe it's Roethlisberger that's the problem. So this is what I would do, okay? I would go to AB, and I would go to Le'Veon Bell, too. And I'd say, guys, let me ask you this. If Roethlisberger wasn't the quarterback of this team, how would you feel about staying on the Steelers? And if they were open to that, I would trade Roethlisberger and I would sign Nick Foles, who players seem to love playing with, who just won a Super Bowl, who made a damn good shot at repeating. Think of what you could get for Roethlisberger in a quarterback-starved league.
Let me respond
You
to that.
go.
Let me respond to that. I don't blame you for feeling that way for two reasons. Obviously, his credentials over the last 2 seasons and what he's done in crunch time when Carson Wentz went down. Not to mention the fact that you are absolutely right, because I've spoken to numerous Eagles players, and they rave about Nick Foles. And a lot of folks in that Philadelphia Eagles locker room wanted the Eagles to keep Nick Foles and trade Carson Wentz. So your point is valid, but here's why I disagree with you. I'm not a believer in Nick Foles over the course of 16 games. I think it's real nice to step in at pivotal moments, and it's not to diminish that, but it's to step in pivotal moments over a 5 or 6 game stretch is entirely different than you being the man from start to finish for 16 games. He started this season. First 2 games went 1-1, okay? He had a rib injury going into the playoffs against Chicago. I'm more inclined to believe that Nick Foles, not that he'll ever be what he was with Jeff Fisher as his coach, but I definitely don't believe that the Nick Foles that we saw with Doug Peterson and the Eagles, not just the Super Bowl year, but this past season, is the Nick Foles that we'll see for another franchise as its starting quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger, say what you will, but Ben Roethlisberger's ability to extend plays because he shoves off tackles. I don't think that could be diminished. I don't think Nick Foles ain't that dude. I'm not sold.
I'm not saying Foles is better than Roethlisberger.
I know that.
Individually. I'm saying Nick Foles has the kind of effect on a team where they function better than the sum of their parts.